Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nerds of Legend. This week, we've got a very fun topic. Melissa is going to lead us on a merry romp through the subject of Victorian ghost stories. We'll have a sort of a fine assortment of different ghost stories that have some Victorian origins. Maybe we'll talk about some like paranormal shit, or maybe we'll just talk about that sort of like history of like when a lot of these of where like the sort of modern concept of a ghost story sort of originated from. So without further ado, Missy, I'll let you take it away.
Sounds good. So this is very niche. So not everyone has 5 volumes from Valancourt books of Victorian ghost stories. But so it's funny because, everyone knows Christmas Carol, right? They know that Charles Dickens. It's very, deep into every, cultural subconscious, whether it's European or, American. We're all kind of deep into it, but it's actually part of a larger tradition. Back then, not a lot of things going on. It's cold, it's dark, it's the solstice, and people come in and they sit by the fire. And what we would do around, Halloween, as you think about, All Souls Day and, kind of where the veil is thinnest, they would sit around and tell ghost stories around Christmas time. So, it's just a really fascinating thing. It never really kept caught on in the US. We kept it strictly for Halloween time, but here we are talking about ghost stories. It's a little bit more than Jacob Marley. There's hundreds, if not thousands of them.
Yeah, I feel like in America we're more busy like trying like either playing cards or trying to ignore each other. So,
well, for the time of year, like America was all about what is it?
Industrialism.
Well, I'm talking like around the holiday time. Like this is a heavy Christian time for American history.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, like we have a lot of it is, going back to Christian assimilation of pagans, right? We picked December 25th because it's close to the winter solstice or solstice.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with.
It was it had an established set of lore and everything, and like good Christians, we stole it.
Yeah, you can easily roll it in, take over, give people a little bit of what they're familiar with, and then
because like historically, like that, like even before like pre-Christianity, like you said, assimilation of paganism, like you told ghost stories at this time of year because that's when the spooky ghosties and fae were around, was during the winter solstice, especially like the bad ones.
Yeah,
the bad ones were around, not the good ones. Like if you go to summer solstice, it's fine, but
yeah. Well, I mean,
it's weird to think like that is historically speaking is the scariest time of the year is now the time that's just filled with presents and happy little fat elves that are bringing presents.
The scariest time of year historically was the time where like you didn't know if you were going to like 3 months from now, if you were going to still have food and, or if you ran out of firewood or whatever and you were just a corpse sickle by March.
Do you know what, Ben, do you know what today is?
Today is St. Nicholas Day.
It is.
No, shut up. That is a made-up holiday for the south side of Chicago. Shut up.
The Feast of St. Nicholas.
Yeah. Is it a Catholic thing? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, because I've never heard of it. And then Missy's...
You never got chocolate coins in your shoes? Oh, yeah, you're a dumb little evangelical person that didn't get fun.
I was, yeah. Now I'm Catholic, but like it's just funny to me, like, Missy's mom never misses a beat. She'll show up and drop off a whole bunch of chocolate. And I'm like, I swear you guys are funded by like American Dental Association. They just drop off candy, whatever. And then she's like, it's St. Nicholas Day. I'm like, that is fucking made up. Like that is celebrated only on the South Side. And then it turns out other weirdos know it.
No, it's European. It's like German tradition. It goes back. But what's the flip side of Saint Nicholas? So Saint Nicholas brings little girls or little kids.
St. Nicholas brings little girls. That also is very, very.
We're not that kind of show, Missy.
Well, good night, sir. We will cancel ourselves.
Well, too bad. It's that kind of church.
Yeah, it is that kind.
Ouch.
I see what he did there.
To our good little girls, treats. And
What about the little boys don't get shit?
Yeah.
I got stuff for St. Nick's Day. It was just it was like it didn't cross the threshold of stocking level. It wasn't like boxed under tree level present. It was like if it could fit in a shoe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So chocolate, keychain, Tamagotchi, that was the max.
That was that stuff with the shoes. I read stories about that, but I didn't know that people would do it. They would leave shoes out. I didn't know that was
You just didn't know it was a real thing.
I just thought it was like a weirdo, not American thing.
No.
If it involves saints or some variant of
It was
Christianity,
like a South American thing when I was little.
my mom was on it. What a saint! Oh, we're doing that. So
Yes. 100%. But what's the flip side of it?
Krampus, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So where you have again, and you have this, and this goes back.
Is that the one that's only for boys? Krampus. Girls get presents. Boys get beat to death by
the switch.
St. Nicholas brings, good little boys and girls.
Oh,
and bad kids are dragged to hell by Krampus.
That's
How
very.
And stuffed in his sack of coal and beaten with a willow switch and dragged to hell.
It's very German. It's very German.
It is very
dragged to hell, like for you're damned for all eternity. So, wow, I would have been.
When
Hansel and Gretel.
When your life expectancy is 40, they have to ramp up the adulthood very quickly. So the childhood stories get very serious. Like, oh, you're going to be 30 in 10 years. It's like dog years. So we gotta really hit you with the serious material.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So that's also how they explain that the child's just not around anymore.
All the boys were.
They're like, we only had a place setting for 5, and she had twins. I guess one was a dick.
Like the changelings, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Swap out the baby in the middle of the night and all that.
My daughter's an asshole, so you just give them out. I killed her. It's a changeling. Those stories are wild. That's another time, though. We could talk about changeling stories a different time.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, there's these little weird threads of ghosts and spooky things. I think in the most wonderful time of the year, there's a line about sharing spooky ghost stories by the fire. So it's it's this weird thing, but it didn't really catch on. It fell out of fashion.
I feel like we should start that in our house. You want to, 'twas the night before Christmas. Fuck that nonsense. We're going to talk about how the Krampus is going to come. And
Leo needs a little bit of come to Jesus.
And Logan.
Logan's an adult, though. Can you bribe the Krampus to come get him? Can he be this adult?
That's called an assassination, Joel.
Yeah. Can you get anybody bribe him? Be anybody instead of children, just people you are financially obligated to take care of. Can we just broaden the definition to the 20th century version, 21st?
All right, this is getting a little personal. Anyway, Krampus.
Yes. So back to the supernatural, right? So you have this again, this Christmas idea tangentially related to, we have the saint, but then we have these historical, traditions. Let's just roll it all into one and see what happens. And so you have these in the idea of St. Nicholas, again, it was super common for me, right? Everyone I grew up with was Catholic. We went to Catholic school, so we all did the things, right? So it was
That's what.
only for little heathens.
Only for little heathens. We didn't like books in my church when I was little. They were
the correct term is heretic, but we'll move on.
Yeah.
It's not that you didn't like books, Joel. You only liked one book. And one book only.
You didn't have time to read it. You know how many chapters there were in the Bible? Yeah.
You just cherry pick that.
Yeah, you just picked 3 or 4 lines and applied it to everything.
You'd like Song of Solomon's. It's it's like a magazine. It's not too bad.
It's a book. Nope, don't have time for that in the evangelical church. Too busy casting out demons in my MacBook. No, there was an actual sermon where the pastor said his iMac was possessed. Actually, at that point in time, it was a Mac 2. And so he had to cast the demon out of it.
I think he was trying to explain.
No, that is exactly what he said. It was possessed by a demon and wouldn't work. And so he had to cast the demon out of it. And then when he turned it off and turned it back on, it worked.
Joel, if Apple could put demons in your MacBook to make it break, they'd do it to everybody. They'd be rich.
I feel like the humor that was an actual sermon. It was a 25-minute sermon about how demons can infest technology at the church I went to when I was a child.
Wasn't that in Buffy? She was a techno-pagan. You're welcome.
This is walking a fine line.
We're getting off topic.
If we're gonna play Shadowrun, we're gonna need more D6s. Probably like 200 of them.
I apologize. I'll be quiet.
No, his pastor just watched that episode of Buffy and was like,
it was in '88. Thank you. Okay. So pre-Buffy.
Pre-Buffy.
I got a letter in the mail. My mom did from the Concerned Mothers of America to write into your senator to pull Buffy off the air when Willow started dating Tara.
Yeah.
It was literally like this foul sin is plaguing the airwaves and corrupting young children. And then in season
super cool.
Yeah, and then season 6, the nerds just gunned Tara down. Spoilers. And then I guess they didn't care anymore.
Well, that was like close to the mother is like this, like tied for the most heartbreaking into the series, right? Like you have this, right? We're off topic.
We're not talking about Buffy tonight, people.
Back to it. You wrote it out. You have an outline. And you're allowing me.
But outlines are rough, and you let the conversation go organically.
Yeah, but now we're talking about Buffy.
I know. Yeah. Back to it. So a lot of times, these stories were told by the fire. They were oral traditions. People couldn't read. They, passed it down, and then eventually, with the printing press. Then with the printing press, they had these papers that they needed to fill. And so, some authors took those oral traditions and either, made them their own or just put them down. And so now they had these periodicals with all these ghost stories around there. And that's how, the tradition of the Victorian kind of ghost story happened. And Charles Dickens was one of the biggest proponents of it because he had a publication himself, right? So they existed before him, they existed after him, but he made a ton of money off of it. And so one of the, there's, his is obviously the most well-known. It's one that stayed in all of the things, and we can, debate the ghosts.
Because he probably reprinted it every year because then he didn't have to pay anybody.
He was also paid by the word.
Yeah.
He was paid by the word, and you could tell. So
I love the Christmas story. I always have, but I always wondered how that came about. It was Christmas Carol, whatever the fuck it is. It's, you know what I mean.
Well, the period that period of time in the UK, there was a very strong spiritualist movement.
Mm-hmm. Even in the US.
Even in the US, yeah. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was an avowed spiritualist. He would hold seances and try to commune with spirits and that sort of thing. In fact, he disavowed Christianity. So there were a fair amount of intellectuals, writers, so on that were interested in piercing the veil, as it were. So it was very much, a hot issue at the time.
Yeah. And it's funny because, again, all these stories, they really don't have anything to do with Christmas. Maybe they're tangentially related. Maybe they're talking over Christmas Eve, over, cigars or, whatever it is. But they don't really, there's nothing about it. It's just about the spooky. And so, and I think that's fun because spooky season should be all year round. And especially around Christmas, because who doesn't love a ghost Jesus?
I mean,
you're so proud of yourself. You're so proud of yourself for that one.
Christmas is all about baby Jesus.
Yeah. That's Easter. Easter is
right around December. He still Gohan.
Maybe.
He's still 6-year-old Gohan, right? Fighting Frieza, 9? He's not Saiyaman yet. He's, his power level will increase. I'm making a direct correlation between the Bible and Dragon Ball Z. That is correct.
Any powers at this time? I believe he's just straight baby.
I guarantee you.
Old man and
no. Merlin was born knowing everything.
I guarantee. I mean,
he was an old man. Merlin was born an old man because he lived backwards in time.
Joel, he's the son of God.
That's Benjamin Button. Sorry.
Thank you.
Read your Arthurian legends. Absolutely not. Merlin was born. I will get them. They're right upstairs.
I know. Downstairs.
I guarantee you. If somebody broke their leg and Joseph picked up the baby Jesus and just kind of like used him just took his baby hand and just kind of put it over the broken limb, I guarantee you he'd be like a Tide to Go pen and just fix that shit.
Wait, you're saying that he would just use it as like a human, like just hold it,
so if Jesus is the Almighty and he's a baby,
we have the baby and be like.
Yes, like a paint roller. Yes, that is correct.
Why aren't you magical?
If he's divine, but he is the mind of a child, that means you could utilize the infant baby Jesus like a tool.
So you're saying any divine object can be used for anything? It's the powers of the wielder, not the object itself? Is what you're saying?
Would you limit an omnipotent creator, Joel? I wouldn't.
Is correct, and actually captured Jesus. He could have been like using him as a weapon and like firing people, like killing him.
He's not a Pokemon. I'm just no. If Joseph just had him and just kind of like took his little baby hand and like went over a broken fence with it, he was a carpenter. He probably would have mended it easily. Easily had level 0 spells, mending, prestidigitation.
Guessing baby Jesus had cancer. He was a spell focused.
Guys, I believe we are off topic again.
This is the best off topic.
I came into a really weird thing.
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
Welcome, Brian.
I would argue that it is on topic because it's about spooky Jesus.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that is what.
Joel,
I don't believe that. No, I feel that is wrong.
You have to admit that a baby Jesus running around doing miracles is much scarier than an adult running around.
The infant gospel of St. Thomas is that way. The infant gospel of Christ. That's all about. He's like
pretty sure that one got like.
It's also
that was apocryphal. That was the apocryphal.
Yeah.
But think about a 6-month-old baby Jesus just like huffing it on foot and just running around, just tagging leopards.
6-month-old running around is creepy.
See, it's infinitely scarier.
You had to be divine.
Yeah, but he's both God and man, so therefore.
Shut up. Just move on to something else.
I didn't know we were doing philosophy today. Otherwise, we would drink more beer beforehand.
Just jumped right down the rabbit hole. You two are like, don't. We're like, shut the fuck up. We're on our way.
Considering most historical evidence actually shows that Jesus was probably born in late May than he was in December, let us go ahead and shift topics off of this, since he literally has nothing to do with the Christmas season.
That's why it's important that that's why we talk about ghost stories, right? That's why they did it. That's why they became like, and it only was like a blip of a century, right? Like not even like it was just, again, with the rise of spiritualism, with the rise of all of that stuff, you have like the people who are uptick of interest in the spooky stuff, right? And it tied really closely with, popular literature of the time, because Gothic novels were, what you would be like reality TV trashy for that area.
Is there any evidence that suggests that this was not also a tradition like preceding Victorian times, like going back like into?
Oh no, this is absolutely pre-Victorian.
Yeah.
And I can actually point to something really fucking simple to help you guys understand as to like how exactly spooky season ties in almost perfectly with the winter months. And that is simply the weather.
Yeah.
Think about it. You have a long year's end, and then everything else around you is fucking dying.
Yeah.
It's months before the baseball season starts again.
So basically, it's seasonal
What about
depression
your
in full effect.
the seasonal
In
depression?
many ways, yes, actually, because think about it. You have this nice long period where everything is either green or growing, or where you've gathered all this food and whatnot, and then all of a sudden, like, everything is gray, everything is bleak, everything is like coming to an end. Like, imagine what like early man must have thought of the winter months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As the days get shorter and shorter and darker.
Yeah, exactly. And
Your
depending
food
on where
stores
you
are
are
running
exactly
short,
in the
you don't know if
world,
they're
like
gonna last.
everything gets dark for super long amounts of time.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see then in like the tropical regions where the days are relatively the same length, if they have a similar habit, similar tradition.
They don't.
Or more like upbeat, because the days are usually same temperature, same length of daylight.
No, if you look at a lot of the Polynesian cultures and stuff, like they're a lot of their like sort of like death god sort of scenarios or ghost stories are more centered around like catastrophic weather events and stuff like that, like volcanoes or hurricanes or typhoons or tsunamis. They're not centered around like, the winter or, the coming winter, the cold, or, ghosts came and took this family in the night because they ran out of food and froze to death or whatever.
That would also explain the prevalence of why so many of our baddies in like Northern Europe that we've come to know are all night based. They all happen at nighttime, and it all happens at the cold and the mist and all the more like seasonal things, because that's when life sucks, is when it's cold and
the dark is scary. You can't see the dark. The dark is unknown, and you have these, and that's what these stories prey upon, right? Like,
for
it's
the
like
night is dark and full of terrors.
Right? Like, you see someone and, you hear like a lot of like, so one of the stories that is like one of the most popular and like kind of the favorite of the time is like the old nurse's story, right? And so Elizabeth Gaskell is a really popular author at the time. She's besties with Charles Dickens. She has a really popular novel that actually is one of my favorite, but has fallen out of favor and isn't really studied anymore. And she tells the story about, and she uses these same, just the dark orphan, like a woman is orphaned and she goes to live with her distant relatives, and she's brought to this estate and it's haunted. And, in the middle of the night, they hear these playing, someone playing an organ, and they're like, oh, who was playing that? And, then everyone's like, don't speak of it and all this stuff. And so you have these things that are...
talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno. We don't weird shit going on. You just move past it because it's just spooky and you don't want to, admit it. And it comes out that there once were these two sisters and they fell in love with the same man who was a traveling singer. And he chose the younger one and married her in secret and knocked her up and then left. And so when he came back in a year, because he was, roving with his music troupe, like, they would come back, their marriage would be acknowledged and their child would, be known. And he never comes back, or he abandons her. She kind of has a fight with her sister. Her sister tells their father, he casts them out, they all die. Right. And then everyone is haunted, like, and that's who's haunting the house, is the spirit of the sister and the daughter. And it's just this like over the top, like nothing to do with Christmas, nothing to do with like redemption. But this is like the counterpart to, if you like, one of the most popular stories of the time, right?
They tell their dad he casts them out, they die.
Yeah,
there's no middle ground. They just die.
In the end of it, and Elizabeth Gaskell is like notorious for not really finishing her stories, and so the end of it is just the older sister being like, the sins of your youth can't be fixed, dead. Like, it's this like over dramatic, like melancholy thing, and you're like, how is this Christmas? Like, at least like in the Christmas Carol, he gets redemption, right?
Yeah.
Like, these stories, It's a Wonderful Life, like he comes back and realizes life is worth it. And we're like, and the Victorians are like, no, we're all going to die.
Well, it's even like the fairy tales of that time too. It's like there was not like the happily ever after thing is a Disney convention. It's not like there was never a happily ever after in the old fairy tales or ghost stories. There was never, often there's not even a lesson to be learned. It was just like, these people are shit and now they're dead.
Yep.
So don't do what they did.
The rims are fantastic. Yeah. They're super dark.
Yeah. Little Mermaid turns into
Seafoam. Yes, he turns into bubbles.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you get for chasing dudes.
Yeah.
In Snow White, the wicked stepmother, she has her shoes superheated iron, and then they clasp almost like burning shoes on her, and she dances around on like her feet burning until she dies.
What's the one where they end up tricking the wicked stepmother or whatever into naming her own punishment, and it's to be like rolled down a hill in a barrel like with iron spikes nailed into it.
I don't remember that one.
Cinderella.
Our stories that they used to tell turned into like, and then they lived happily ever after.
Walt Disney knocked out Snow White, was like, holy shit, I'm onto something.
Yeah.
It's like, let me make this super believable.
There would have been like a different transition that was like,
yeah, Walt Disney got money pouring in 19
commercial.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
you had the live action like Cinderella before that and stuff, I think, right? Pre Snow White.
Snow White's what, 1937?
Oh. Snow White's the first Disney animated feature.
Yeah. No, I mean, but the live action Cinderella is didn't that?
Oh, the live action. No idea. But the animated movies, it goes Snow White and then Pinocchio for the first two.
Yeah. It's just, this is my theory. I have just 100% an opinion, but it sounds like if you're able to put a happy spin on it, you can give it to children. And then you can give it to children, and then they will give it to their children. It's kind of like you breed your own.
Well, that's because it was like they were softer, right? Like,
well, you're doing it right now. We got a whole room full of Little Mermaid stuff that is not the original Seafoam Little Mermaid.
But if you go back to the Victorian times, these children were in the workhouses.
They're working.
They were working.
That's why they don't give a shit.
Yeah, no, they don't give a shit. Their whole
they're like, they lived happily ever after. The fuck they did. She's working down the line with misery.
Yeah, you have and again, another one that was fairly popular. There was a guy who approached a doctor and was like, I have a job for you. And he's like, okay. It's called The Ghost Summons. And this is a summary from gothiclibrary.com. And the guy's like, oh, I have a job for you. He's like, okay, as long as it's honest work, I'll take this job. And he's like, okay, I just want you to sit by my bedside. I'm going to die tonight. And he's like, okay. It's weird. I'm not really sure. Are you trying to get me to prevent your death? What's going on?
It's Victorian times. He's probably like, fuck yeah, free bed.
Right. So then he's sitting there. They have this, he's just sitting there, and as soon as he said he's going to die at 1:30 on the dot, and at 1:30 on the dot, he sees this ghostly specter at at his bedside, and the guy dies. It's like this very spooky, but again, no one's happy. No one's happy. Yeah, the end. And then it goes he meets with this widow. They plan a funeral, but it's never really it's never explained. It's never the supernatural is really just let to be supernatural.
At least let him meet a fucking demon or something. God.
No, it's just a ghostly specter that comes by the side, takes him, and then he's gone. And the doctor's just sitting there like, the fuck.
They don't have a conversation of hey, why do you think you're gonna die exactly 1:30 this morning, and why do I need to be here?
Well, it has to be honest work for the doctor. He's not fucking making cadavers here.
No, but like, why did the doctor even have to? So like, why did the doctor have to be there for this guy dying at precisely 1:30 in the morning?
To tell the story.
Yeah, to tell the story.
That doesn't make sense.
Like,
this guy's like, I bet you're wondering why you're here. It's like, yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by this prospect. It's like, was the doctor supposed to like try and like save the guy and he just failed utterly?
No, he's gonna die, and he wants him to preside over his deathbed and gives him a ton of money to do it. And the doctor's like, I'm in. Like,
Is it like a last? It's not even a last rites thing. It's just like
Ben. Doctors at this time were also barbers and would give you leeches. So
and wild morphine addicts most of the time.
yeah, morphine. They didn't have hypodermics. They'd scratch you with.
But like, so why did he need the doctor there? Shouldn't he even ask for a priest? like what was the doctor's role in this? Just to be like, yep, he died at exactly 1:30 in the morning.
Death, go.
Is there some like weird inheritance rule that wasn't discussed? Or
he wasn't a doctor; he was a lawyer. He's just like,
awesome.
And contract.
Just tell me when you're dead. He's dead. Nice. I mean, 1:30, you could still get to bed at a decent time. Like he kicks off at 1 a.m., 1:30. I mean, you can be in bed by 2.
So they just like in the story they just like sat in silence. Or was like did the guy like go to bed and the doctor just has to sit there?
Yeah, they just sit.
Wait,
what?
Wait, that is a valid question. Did the guy go to sleep? Is he like, well, I'll be dead at 1. Good night. See you tomorrow.
1:30.
Like if I know like my exact time of death, sorry.
No.
I'm gonna be fucking like.
He had
bring the
doctor.
Bitches.
yeah, on your deathbed. You're gonna be like, bring the bitches on your deathbed.
He had the doctor there,
bring the heroin and cocaine. Come on, let's see what.
It was Victorian England. They had heroin and coke. They had morphine, and cocaine was given for everything. Right. Haven't you seen old ads? Everything now with cocaine.
Morphine was a tincture at the time, so it was mixed with alcohol. It was like in a jar. It wasn't even.
You gotta look for stuff like that now.
They probably don't even have tinctures anymore. But yeah,
they do. 1:30 they have like nightshade oil in them or something, and they like kill your liver.
Yeah, no thanks. 1:30 was a hard stop. That's why he had a doctor there. He's like, if I'm not dead by 1:30, you need to make sure I am.
Oh,
finish the job if I'm still around.
That doesn't sound like honest work if he's got to kill him.
Heavens, was this the awful scene of which I was about to witness?
Say it louder.
Take place veritably among the dead.
You have to say it louder if you're going to read it.
11, groaned the doomed man. Gracious God, but 2 hours more, and that ghostly messenger will bring me the summons. Come, for mercy's sake, let's hasten.
Wait,
so the rich guy is just like sitting there just like...
This is assisted suicide. He's like, if I'm not dead at 1:30, here's a hammer. Like, just get it done.
So that's what he's doing. He's like trying to get you to hurry it up.
The rich guy, like every half an hour, is like, "Oh, woe be upon me! This rich inspector comes.
Inches closer, sweet death, grant me mercy."
Yeah. No, the guy he essentially picks him up on the street. They walk back to his place,
and the doctor just like quietly sits there, like reading a book by candlelight, like checking his watch every so often.
Yeah.
This sounds like an early 2000s Craigslist encounter.
I think this was the good doctor trying to explain away a euthanasia.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, this is assisted.
Like, no, he didn't kill him. He asked me to just wait. It was a weird thing.
Sure.
So then what happened?
Like the doctor was going along and basically trying to like disprove the guy's disillusion. Like, oh, you're not going to die at 1:30, whatever, fine. And he like, he sits there. He's just, kind of like, he's chilling out. And like, the guy's like resting in bed. And he's like, okay, yeah, this is dumb, whatever. 1:30 comes around, fucking spooky shit happens. He's like, well, that's a thing.
So he falls asleep, right? He's attending the guy's.
How did you skip over the old hooker's ghost? It's called the old hooker's ghost.
What?
You're like, nah, that's not
We
a
didn't
story.
read that one.
What?
Can she still perform her duties in spectral?
I don't know.
Does she
Shut up,
become
I gotta read a story about hookers.
Does she become a succubus?
No,
It might not be a hooker in the Victorian concept. That might be just a person that like baits fish hooks.
So prostitutes being referred to as hookers comes from General Hooker during the Civil War, the Northern general. They called them hookers' girls because he would hire prostitutes for the troops to maintain morale. So if this proceeds to the Civil War, it's not going to have a correlation, unfortunately.
Shut up.
thank you.
This is about women of the night. You shut the hell up.
I'm more interested
even
in
though-
why like Brendan knows the origin of the term hooker, but
We're just gonna gloss over that.
We're gonna gloss over that. This has nothing to do with anything.
So the thing about the Gothic novel, they're two distinct things, right? So female writers of the Gothic novel let the supernatural lie, right? Like they let it exist and kind of sometimes they would explain it away, sometimes it would be rational. Like the men,
there's no resolution or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, the orphans always, they have the father that they thought died was really entrapped, like encased in a wall, and they live happily ever after and get the estate, right? But a lot of these stories, they don't have that kind of ending. It's just this this.
That sounds like a prostitute. Said she was a general and well-satisfied butt, spelled with 2 T's.
Oh.
For she was too obtuse to observe the shafts aimed at her. That sounds like a hooker to me.
That sounds like a Victorian gangbang.
Yeah,
that would take forever.
Too obtuse to observe the shafts aimed at her. She's just going about her day with her dicks everywhere.
Yeah.
Your husband's an idiot. I'm sorry.
It would take like an hour to
Missy,
get.
if you need to get out the muzzle, it's okay. You can.
Do you know how expensive it would be to hire prostitutes at that time? Because you'd spend an hour just getting the corset off. And the clock's running. It's just.
You're dressed up and bend over in the alley. Haven't you watched those really gritty ones on Amazon?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't go for the gritty. Sorry, I don't go for the gritty hose, Joel.
Yeah, well, you fucking don't want your realism and your
Brendan, do you prefer the term escorts?
If by realism you mean syphilis, come on, man.
You're assuming that like everyone at the time wasn't just for like a quick bang. Like they're like not gonna like sensually touch like their
they're gonna
fucking dirty as shit. They smell like piss. And they're just in an alley somewhere drunk as fuck. Like,
Yeah.
Pinpoint the historical origins of the quickie. Do we know if that was in vogue in Victorian times?
they all had mistresses. No one, like, the concept of marrying for love was not a thing. And so they all just married to, produce an heir, and they were all married to their cousins.
They're like, but I don't actually want to bang my cousin because I saw her naked when she was 5.
Yeah. Yeah, back to Krampus taking the bad little boys.
He brings the bad little boys to the cheap hookers.
Yeah, to the old hooker's ghost.
They end up with syphilis.
They end up with syphilis.
I know with syphilis.
Yes.
You get your brains melted.
I can't get over this one. This is just...
Oh, man.
But yeah, so, I mean, essentially, it's a fun tradition. It's something, that kind of hasn't really made its way. It never made its way over here. And so all these stories really fell out of print, right? Yeah. Until this Valancourt. Yep. Valancourt Books is an amazing small press. I love them. They have they print out of print like horror books that were really popular at the time, and it could be modern or modern-ish ones, but also historical ones too. And so they put together these anthologies which are super fun, and they're just filled with this like the ghost stories. And so if you're if you're looking for a new family tradition, pick them up, and there's other books too, right?
So I'm curious because
there's other anthologies.
I'm curious if there's like a similar situation with like science fiction, because there's a huge amount of like science fiction stories that were printed in like the 70s and 80s in like these pulp magazines things that like short stories and like little novelettes and stuff, and like they didn't necessarily get published, but they're like in these like science fiction weekly magazines or whatever.
Yeah, and that's what these were. They were essentially like printed in like newspapers,
penny store novels or newspapers or whatever. But yeah,
exactly. Like penny dreadfuls were a thing at the time. I know there was that HBO show, but it actually was, you'd pay a penny and you'd get
a bunch of horror stories. Yeah.
With
get your weekly goosebumps.
Yeah, Jack the Ripper, like all of that stuff was going on now, and so it's just a fun moment in time that is just a weird historical like fun fact that people might not know, because you think of the Christmas Carol as something that is just it's important to like tell that story of redemption, of growth, of why the Christmas miracle and all of that fun stuff. But it also equally, there are just as many stories that are just like spooky and fun and have no sort of resolution, or like the ending, it's just, and everyone died. Like, and here's the one person who's 80 living to tell the story, and so she can pass it on to the next person before she dies.
So I just wonder like why that didn't like happen out here, out in the
we were founded by Puritans.
Yeah, well,
like,
they weren't the only ones though. There's a huge amount of German and Irish and everything else immigrants that happened after that.
So the thing to keep in mind, Ben, is the influx of those immigrants came significantly after.
Yeah.
So,
so all of the Christmas traditions that were in place by then were firmly, like, sort of like done, like set in stone, so to speak.
In New England,
another episode we can look at Christmas traditions and the evolution from like, because I think they were very different. Even in the 1800s to now, like that's wildly different. I remember Christmas starting in December when I was now it's July.
Yeah, I mean, like you go family to family, like even like each of us probably have a very different like. This is how Christmas, like this is what we do, like.
I mean, even the celebrations are different. Some are like wild, drunken. Like parties, and those are like a quick toss a present at them and then get out the house quickly.
Hide the pickle.
Yeah.
Anyone else have to go to midnight mass?
We used to have to go to, when we were Lutheran, we would go to the midnight one.
Got the candles with the little holder to keep the wax from hitting your hand and all that.
No, we're Catholic. We go to like,
you didn't go to the fun Christmas mass. You went to the like easy one.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. If we did it.
Yeah. I was excited to go to the midnight mass because it was like, that means I got to stay up late. And then there was always like food afterwards.
Yeah.
We didn't do a lot of food afterwards.
No, we didn't go to midnight mass.
Sounds like you got the shitty end of the stick there, Joel, with your denomination.
We bounced around to different stuff. So
he was the one possessed by demons.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why he didn't get the shitty end. He got the fun end filled with all the vices.
Yeah. Yeah. No, mine was...
For a quick second, we have a question from one of our viewers, considering we're talking about Christmas stuff.
Oh, hello, viewer.
Hello.
What is
they wanted me to ask whether or not Kevin McAllister or the Predator would win.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That would obviously be
on.
So
the ultimate hunter versus the ultimate prey.
The thing that factors into this question is whose movie is it? If it's a Predator movie, There's no way that Kevin's getting out. If it's a Chris Columbus...
How much prep time does Kevin get?
Exactly. If it's a Chris Columbus directed Christmas film about Kevin, like...
Well, good night, everybody.
using his Boy Scout badges and setting up tripwires in the woods and so on, and learning about like the spirit of camaraderie with his fellow Boy Scouts taking out a predator or some shit, definitely Kevin's gonna win. So it's
but
like,
is the predator coming at Kevin on?
Say, I don't know.
Is the predator coming at Kevin on his turf or the predator's turf?
Predator, absolutely. That's a no. No, not even for prep time. He's 10. The other one can turn invisible and has like little missile launchers in his forearms.
Yeah,
I just watched that.
It's entirely plausible for Kevin McAllister.
No, it's not. You are dumb.
The more Predator movies that there have been.
No, I just literally watched it.
The easier it is to kill a predator.
For half of the movie. A major character development point in Home Alone was when he was no longer scared of the furnace. Intergalactic master hunter with high-tech weaponry, kids scared of a furnace. I don't know. I'm going to really go with the space alien and the technology designed for killing.
Because Joel.
Scared of a furnace.
Each consecutive Predator movie, it is easier to kill a predator. Plus, you're discounting the fact that Kevin McAllister...
Any of the Predator movies.
Kevin McAllister is Christian and therefore is favored by God in a Christmas movie, so he's divine intervention. It's like in Warhammer when the Bretonnians choose to kneel to the battle and they pray for the grace of the lady. The sun blots out the eyes of the orcs and the arrows are harder to hit you. He gets divine providence from being a little Catholic boy, and clearly the Predator is not Catholic or Christian in any denomination. Gets no divine favor around Christmas time.
But what if
there is some precedent to what Brendan was just saying, because in every Home Alone movie, Kevin is always saved by someone else at the very last minute. So the real question comes, who comes to save Kevin McAllister? Because
an old guy with a shovel.
She's fucked.
Fine. He's saved by divine intervention on Christmas Day. He has to stay alive until the sun rises on December 25th.
Land on the Predator. I hate this topic.
I love this topic, and if you don't like it, then shut up.
Okay. They're idiots.
You better stay on the nice list, or Santa won't save you from the. It's Santa. Santa saves him.
Our credit report: Santa Claus his weight in this household.
It is confirmed that Santa Claus is a badass. Just consult David Harbour. Yeah. Santa Claus comes down the chimney, saves Kevin McAllister.
That's Futurama with Santa Claus bot.
The latest Christmas movie.
Violent Night.
Violent Night.
Violent Night.
Where
Santa Claus comes
is
down.
A fucking badass and diehards through a mansion filled with fucking gangsters or something.
Not Not only does he diehard them, but he's also confirmed to be magical in the movie. So he kills a bunch of assassins and is magical. I guarantee you, Kevin McAllister just
always been magical.
Santa comes down with a peppermint candy cane sword
versus
takes it out, kills
Predator.
Takes the Predator.
No, the question was Kevin McAllister versus Predator, not God help save Kevin McAllister. It was this 10-year-old kid with ornaments and army guys versus a predator. Not who saves Kevin McAllister. It was Kevin McAllister versus a predator. You're adding, what if Superman came in? Okay, well, Superman fucking saved the planet from doomsday. No, that doesn't mean shit. No, planet didn't do shit. They were getting their ass kicked.
Nope. You can't discredit how he was able to do all of that stuff.
They're all idiots. You know that. Yeah,
I've never seen The Predator, so I have no stake in this game. Skin in this game.
I'm expecting that I would bring this topic up.
Yeah, well,
what's your position, Brian?
My personal position is that the Predator wins.
Oh,
because here's the thing: Kevin does not use natural ways in which to hide his traps like Arnie did, and therefore the Predator is usually going to be able to see right through them. And unlike Harry and Marv, the Predator is not a bumbling thief. The Predator is a well-seasoned hunter who, is going to absolutely fucking gut Kevin McAllister.
Yeah,
the only
Predator's also used to like seeing like things like spike, pit traps and trip lines and stuff like that. He's not going to view certain things as necessarily.
You're really hanging your hat on Jingle Bell.
I'm hanging my hat on Kevin McAllister.
It seems like the room is split right down the line. It's like this is the Kevin McAllister side, and that's the Predator side.
Because Kevin,
she don't give a shit side. Yeah, she is the tiebreaker, and she's sitting here.
The
question is, at the end of the day, Brian.
I am researching the Predator. I thought he was a space dinosaur.
Oh, okay. So
he was. At the beginning. He was when Jean-Claude Van Damme was in a red lizard suit. His agent. What, Joe?
This has nothing to do with Victorian ghost stories.
It's our modern ghost story. Aliens are our modern versions of the ghost story.
Yeah. Well, no, I thought it would be fair just to answer this viewer's question.
Yeah. So
I'm hardlining on the Predator would kick the shit out of a 10-year-old.
I agree.
So the question is.
She just said she agreed. Shut up, Ben. You lost and deal with it quietly.
Yeah. Well,
the question.
His hand.
Yeah.
The question is: would the Predator? Would the Predator go in for the kill, or would he admire Kevin's moxie as a child attempting to stave off a predator?
Does the Predator?
No, what he would do is he would absolutely turn his back on Kevin until Kevin brought out the BB gun or the flamethrower, in which case he would immediately turn around and then gut the shit out of Kevin.
Fair. All right.
On that note, well, goodbye.
And then all of a sudden he does it, and like, okay, well, it's fine, fuck.
See, you guys are ignoring the mise en scène, the world of the movie. No one would pay to see that movie in 1994.
Dude, I just watched a Home Alone marathon because my kids wanted to. I would watch Kevin McAllister right now get beat up by a predator because that fucker annoyed the shit out of me. That for like the hours my children wanted to watch Home Alone.
Chris Columbus is directing.
Watch Home Alone marathon and then tell me you don't want to watch.
And John Hughes writes it, and Chris Columbus directs it.
One.
I guarantee you, if it's Kevin's movie, you cannot underestimate the power of plot armor. Do you realize the amount of times that Bruce Wayne in a rubber suit has gotten the better of Darkseid? That doesn't happen unless you have plot armor, unless people want to read the next issue. People wanted more Kevin McAllister. If it's his movie, the plot armor will see him through, especially in Christmas when his power is greatest.
With you.
I actually agree on that point. Yeah.
If you consider Kevin McAllister a supernatural being, his power is at its greatest on Christmas. The Christmas spirit of his movie.
Using the Batman plot armor, but Batman started in like 1930s and did not start out fighting Darkseid. Instead, he built a cult following where he fought people like King Tut the Penguin. But only recently did he start fighting Darkseid, in the last 20 years. So he's got like 70 years of people being like, Batman can't die. Kevin McAllister's got, 2 movies, maybe 3?
2.
And the second one is fucking intolerable. The only cool part about the second Home Alone movie is the fact that you get to see that toy store that you get to play with everything in. When I was a kid, I was like, that was awesome, and I really wanted to go there.
Excuse me, Duncan's Toy Chest. Put some respect on the name.
Okay. That got really hostile. I'm just...
We may get back to the Victorian ghost stories.
I think we're done.
I think we can wrap it up effectively.
It's Little Nero's Pizza. It's Duncan's Toy Chests.
Yep. All right. We're ready to wrap it up then, folks? Or do we have any more parting shots in regards to Krampus or Kevin
We wrapped up 20 minutes ago.
Oh, here's what I will say. To tie it all back, Krampus would absolutely come for Kevin.
That I agree with. I am absolutely with Brian in this one. Kevin has no chance against Krampus. He can take out the Predator. Krampus has
but I would like to hear why Krampus would come for Kevin.
He's an asshat.
Because he pushed over his brother at the choir.
You've got 2 movies worth of buildup where Kevin is nothing but an asshole to everyone around him. Causes massive amounts of property damage. Like, fucking just, steals shit from people constantly.
Yeah, if he would have just, talked to the cops, at the beginning of the first movie, nothing afterwards would have happened.
Excuse me, Miss Ticket Lady. I'm not supposed to be here. My parents are in Florida right now. What the hell? You know, like, he could have done anything. Instead, the guy just decides, you know what? No. I'm going to go on a fucking holiday vacation. I'm going to steal my goddamn father's credit card. I'm going to fucking shit.
Yeah. Kevin sucks.
He's on the naughty list. Until he defeats the criminals and finds his mom in Rockefeller Center, or they come back on that morning.
Although I really want to know what job his dad had
in a row
to own that.
His dad was a day trader. I looked it up. The mom was a day trader. The dad was a day trader. Put that as the most useful piece of information you've ever heard in your life, Ben.
That actually explains a lot of things.
They lived on the exact same street as Steve Martin did in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
So clearly, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Yeah.
Melissa, do you feel like you have satisfactorily hit all your points in regards to Victorian ghost stories?
Yeah. Massive derail.
I'm sorry we kind of like went way off the rails for this one, but
you know what? I got you, Joel. I have a nice conclusion that fits this. The Christmas stories we have are of a much lighter tone because we have comfort, we have warmth and fuel and gasoline and longer lifespans, and so the seriousness of the subject matter this time of year is much lighter than it used to be, and the content of the Christmas story changes to fit society.
One thing we didn't talk about is...
And Hallmark, Missy says.
One thing we didn't talk about is Die Hard a
Fuck
Christmas
you!
Movie?
It is.
We're just here to incense Joel now. That's our job.
If Gremlins is a Christmas movie, and it is, then Die Hard is.
That's fair.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Joel will no longer appear on the podcast.
I might be done.
Anyway,
all right.
So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed our very windy path through stories of Victorian ghost stories, as well as debates regarding Kevin McAllister, and also a few other things. I can't remember all of the topics we covered today. Just a reminder, we will be covering what book?
Midnight Riot by Ben Haranovich.
It's also known as Rivers of London.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then we will be continuing with our Mysteries of Candlekeep tomorrow. I think that's pretty much it for announcements. Does it sound like we want to go over some Christmas traditions in 2 weeks? Or do we want to just... We'll talk about it later.
What do you want to do? Christmas traditions?
I don't usually come on these.
We can do Christmas traditions.
We'll do some Christmas trads in a couple weeks. Thanks everybody for watching. And by the way, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Good night.